All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the world of ransomware. And believe me, it is sophisticated, surprisingly professional, and of course, incredibly dangerous. This whole explainer is inspired by Anja Shortland's incredible deep dive into what she calls the dark economy of cybercrime. Let's get into it.
You know that feeling, right? That pit in your stomach. Imagine this. You're at work just doing your thing, and your computer screen just freezes. Then the one next to you goes dark, and another. You try to reboot, but nothing. IT isn't picking up the phone, and that cold realization just washes over you. Oh no, please don't let this be ransomware.
But here's the thing. That personal nightmare, it's not some isolated incident. Nope. It's actually the front line of a massive and frankly booming global business.
So just how common are we talking? Well, get this. A 2024 global survey found that more than half of all large companies, and yeah, we're talking about businesses with over $10 million in revenue, were hit by a ransomware attack in the last year. Just 1 year. It's really not a question of if anymore. It's a question of when. And when these companies do get hit, wow, the price is steep. The median ransom payment, so that's the typical middle-of-the-road payment, is a staggering $2 million. Yeah, you heard that right. This isn't some small-time shakedown. This is a highly profitable enterprise.
But, that ransom payment, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. When you factor in all the other costs, the downtime, the recovery efforts, the sheer disruption to business, the total hit to the global economy is just mind-boggling. It's projected to hit $57 billion by 2025. And by 2030, we're looking at a staggering $200 billion. It's insane.
So, to really get a feel for how these attacks play out, let's dive into a real-world case. This is the story of a high-stakes cyber showdown between the UK's Royal Mail and one of the most notorious ransomware gangs on the planet, LockBit. Okay, so the scene is January 10th, 2023. It starts like pretty much any other attack. Suddenly, systems at a key Royal Mail distribution center just die. International package processing grinds to a complete halt. And then, something really weird happens. Printers in a sorting office hundreds of miles away just start spewing out the same ominous message over and over and over again.
And that message? It was a direct, chilling announcement. This wasn't just some technical outage. No, Royal Mail was officially being held hostage. And let me tell you, Royal Mail was up against a really formidable opponent here. LockBit was and is one of the biggest names in the game. They were known for being prolific. I mean, they were everywhere. Their encryption? Pretty much uncrackable. But here's the really wild part. They'd built this bizarre reputation for being reliable. You pay them, you get your decryption key, you get your data back. But if you didn't pay, they were absolutely ruthless about leaking every last byte of your data to the entire world. And to really turn up the heat, they took the whole thing public. What you're seeing here is a screenshot from LockBit's leak site. It's a live countdown clock ticking down the seconds until Royal Mail's data would be published for anyone to see. So this wasn't just some private threat anymore. No, they were creating a public spectacle. The clock was literally ticking. So then the demand comes in, and it is strangely corporate. They ask for $80 million. But look at how they framed it. They presented it as a totally reasonable 0.5% of Royal Mail's global revenue. They even tried to position themselves as a bargain, pointing out that a government fine for a data breach like this could be 8 times higher. It's just wild. This is extortion packaged as a business proposal.
So what does Royal Mail do? They decide to play hardball. They stall for weeks, and you can see LockBit getting more and more frustrated, even accusing the company of greed. The whole negotiation was just this masterclass in deflection and pressure from both sides. It goes on and on until Royal Mail just goes completely silent. And that's when the LockBit negotiator sends this final, almost desperate-sounding message. Do you have any offer for me?
So what happened next?
Well, the outcome really reveals the cold, calculated business model that underpins this entire criminal industry.
In the end, Royal Mail took a principled stand. They refused to pay a single penny. But that decision was not free. Not by a long shot. The cleanup bill cost them £10 million. Their overseas deliveries were crippled for 6 weeks straight. Their business volume took a nosedive. And, true to their word, LockBit leaked the stolen data.
Now this is where this whole dark economy gets really strange. To make sure victims are willing and able to pay, these gangs often provide surprisingly good customer service.
I'm not kidding. They'll offer technical support to help you decrypt your files once you've paid up. It's all about building a reliable criminal brand, right? A reputation that says, hey, pay us and you'll get your data back, guaranteed. As one victim ironically noted, they sometimes have better support than normal companies.
So how on earth did we get here? How did we go from mischievous kids tinkering with computers to these massive billion-dollar international extortion rings? Well, the history is probably not what you'd expect.
You know, the word hacker didn't always have this negative ring to it. In fact, originally, it was a term of praise. The first hackers were seen as these playful explorers, these clever inventors who were just fascinated with finding creative ways into new digital systems. It's a world away from the image we have today, right? The anonymous, malicious figure in a hoodie.
In this whole journey, it happened over decades. It really started back in the 60s with so-called phreaks who figured out they could use toy whistles from cereal boxes to make free long-distance phone calls. By the 70s, a very young Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were building blue boxes to do the same thing. Then, in 1989, we saw the very first kind of clumsy attempt at ransomware. And now, here we are in the 2020s, and it's a full-blown global security threat. And this quote from Steve Jobs just perfectly captures that early spirit. He said it was the magic of it all. The fact that a couple of teenagers could build a little box that could control this massive, multi-billion-dollar infrastructure. It wasn't about being evil. It was about the thrill of understanding and controlling a huge, complex system. It was about feeling powerful.
Which brings us right to the core dilemma, the impossible question that every single victim has to face today. And trust me, it's a choice with absolutely no easy answers.
Okay, so here's the fundamental conflict. On one hand, paying the ransom might be the fastest and maybe even the cheapest way to solve your company's immediate existential crisis. You just want the pain to stop. But on the other hand, every single ransom that gets paid validates the criminal's business model. It's the money that funds their entire industry, allowing them to grow, develop better tools, and go after even more victims.
And the criminals themselves, they know exactly where our weaknesses are. This is a quote from another major ransomware gang called Akira, and they say it right out loud. Their most vulnerable point of attack isn't the technology, it's the people. It's us. They exploit human trust, our curiosity, and, let's be honest, our simple mistakes.
And so that brings us right back to that impossible choice. Imagine you're the CEO. Your operations are crippled, the financial pressure is immense, and there's a ticking clock threatening to leak all of your company's secrets. Paying the ransom could save your business, but you know it's just fueling a global criminal industry and making the world less safe for everyone else. So what is the right move?